Well, hello and welcome to the Blast Loadout. This is your post-spring finals, post-Lisbon, I don't know, smorgasbord of information. Sorry for the late start as well. We had some technical issues. Honestly, I wish we recorded it, watching Zonic and dupreeh play IT technician and try and figure out how to make webcams work. That was a great time for me. So here's how this works. You guys haven't tuned in yet. Still a very early show as well. A few days after each Blast tournament, we come in and do a loadout. A few days before each Blast tournament, we do the load in and kind of preview what's coming up at the event. Here on the loadout, we get to kind of look back and just discuss what happened and go over some of the topics and just wrap things up for people who may not have been able to watch throughout the whole event. Maybe just wanted a little cliff notes of the situation. I'm going to be joined by a player. This one is going to have two players. We're going to have Zonic joining us later. We're going to have dupreeh joining us later, obviously both from Vitality. They're going to be hopping in, having a chat. Huge event for those guys. Is the first playoff stage they've made in like 3 years, obviously with COVID mixed in there, but even reaching all the way into the grand finals as well. So it'll be fun to have a chat with them. But just to look back, when we did the Blast load-in before Lisbon for the spring finals, I had kind of 3 points that I wanted you guys to keep your eyes peeled on and keep a lookout for. So we're just going to recap them here really quick and just talk about how they kind of went. First thing that you should have looked for at the spring finals, according to myself, was the new look for OG. They brought in 2 new players. They brought in Neofrag. They brought in Fiku as well. 2 players who did some admirable stuff. Still very early on in that team's lifespan, but still trying, obviously, to be able to perform to a high level. They did pretty good, obviously. I think you got to be relatively happy with them. They made it to the spring finals by having the roster change, bringing in Nexa, going on a honeymoon period as well. That was back at the groups all the way back in February, but you could see the run from OG here. A huge win over Navi to start the event, 2-1. A nice, solid win over ENCE as well, a very impressive team. So OG having some good stuff and then eventually dropping and being eliminated by Navi, one step away from the grand finals. That was a 2-1 loss, but even taking a map off of them there, even moving on after the event also, I think they've just beat Complexity in a match as well over in the Rubet Cup. So all things going pretty decently for OG. I think you have to be happy with kind of the first look that they've had. And let's just take a look at those new players that came in, Neofrag and Fiku as well, to talk things over. Those guys performed pretty well also. I think I've got a chance to cast them in a couple games. We can bring their stats up from the event. They look solid. This is Fiku. Obviously 66 damage per round, not too shabby, pretty, I mean, a little bit below average rating, but that's to be expected from a new addition. And I think overall, with expectations for OG where they were at before these roster changes happened, and that is to mean there was absolutely no expectations whatsoever, this has been a good showing and at least a step in the right direction. This is Neofrag, a little bit better, 1.09 rating. So just overall a good event, nothing too crazy, but it did look like they were almost going to have like another little honeymoon run to make it to the grand finals, just stopped short by Navi that kind of caught fire. Speaking of which, the future of Navi was something I wanted to look at as well heading into the spring finals. Especially with all the indication and all the controversy going around with Boomich and his departure from the starting lineup, bringing Electronic to be the new in-game leader, super important. And I think you have to say questions about Electronic's leadership are still going to be there. Obviously performed very well individually under his own leadership. An incredible rating, 1.25. He's constantly and always been the right-hand man to Simple. That continued here. And I don't even think they necessarily lost a step in this first event with him at the helm of the team. Will be interesting to see if he can actually carry that forward into future events and if he can stay an effective in-game leader. That's obviously going to be of paramount importance for the Navi side of things. And then number 3, as the theme of this year has always been with the way that FaZe started things out, who is going to be the contenders? Which teams were going to step up and actually be able to challenge this team, prevent them from lifting more trophies? Because certainly with Katowice, with the major, with EPL trophies under their belt, they were starting to look pretty unstoppable and an incredibly talented and skilled roster across the board. A lot of worrying signs that they might just be able to take over and just run by storm. And here we found the answer in a certain degree. Both G2 and Vitality kind of stepped up and showed that they still have some stopping power, that they can still challenge. Another event of frustration for FaZe after a disappointing IEM Dallas right out of winning the major. So that's now 2 in a row. I believe as we speak as well, they were losing the game. They did just lose a series live just a couple minutes ago to Big Clan as well. So some of the struggles for FaZe continuing. And now the question becomes, if Navi's going to perform this way so quickly with Electronic stepping into the roster, man, do we really need to search for other contenders? Like these guys might just be might just take the throat away from FaZe right out of the gate. So the time at the top of the mountain for FaZe might be ending early, and we'll just kind of have to figure that out moving forward. Either way, those are the three things we kind of looked at and had the back of our mind going into the spring finals. And now we get to come to the fun part. We get to come and we're going to bring Zonic into the chat. We'll introduce him. We'll get his thoughts on some of these various things that we just talked about and some of the comings and goings of the spring finals. So welcome. Nothing left but welcome Danny to the show. Welcome, Zonic. How's it going? Oh, here he is. Hey, man. What's going on?
I'm doing.
Yeah, it's well. I mean, it's been a tough like a couple years, I guess, for you guys. This was what your first playoff. I mean, we had COVID in there, so it's kind of a little bit skewed. But it was something like 900 days since you guys had been on a playoff stage. Oh, damn. Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, we're having a few audio issues, Danny. They're gonna get sorted out. You weren't coming through on stream, so just chill, and I'll get word eventually when it's all clicking. Just as a heads up to you viewers in chat, as we kind of go through and fix some of these issues as well. We are going to be doing a Q&A with Zonic and with dupreeh at the end of the show once we bring dupreeh in. Granted, if his microphone works. So feel free in chat to drop some questions. I'm going to get those fed by production, and we'll be able to kind of ask him whatever you guys would like towards the end of the show. Regardless, here while we get these figured out, spring finals was obviously a very, very cool event, I think, for everyone involved. I think everyone, especially Blast, was super happy to be back there. I think Lisbon certainly has a case to make that they should have a few more events come their way in Counter-Strike. Certainly with Blast, I mean, I don't really know what the plans are from a business perspective for Blast, but I would love it if we had one final of their fall season. Is obviously always going to be in Copenhagen at the Royal Arena. If we go back to the Altice Arena in Lisbon for the spring finals every single year, that ain't bad at all. Lisbon's a cool place, cool city, great weather, and obviously incredible amount of fans that were able to fill up that arena. What's up, Danny? I hear your microphone works now.
Yes, can you hear me now?
I got you. Oh, I could hear you all the time. It was the audience that couldn't grab onto you. But yeah, you sound great. Let's touch on this really quick because one of the things I want to just talk to you really quick about OG, some of these new additions and the new guys, and more. I guess more in depth, maybe just the philosophy of training up and bringing in younger talent. As a coach, is that like I'm sure you've given thoughts and had some thoughts and ideas on how to properly bring in young talent and new talent into teams and try and incorporate them in. Do you think that's a viable strategy?
Yeah, I think we have been moving slowly away from getting these, you could say, safe calls, getting these old school players who have been at the top
Yeah.
before. I think you also see players like Flosha, MSL, IC, some of these players. It's really not that easy getting back to the big stage. You have all these talent teams. You have seen teams proving that it works. Obviously,
Yeah.
the big name here is Bit from Navi, coming through the academy team and seeing it being a success. Teams doing transfers, making money, obviously.
Right.
So it's just more in, and I think it's also more viable to put your money on the young talented players who have been schooled from the beginning and learning about being professional. And yeah, so in that case, it's a transition. I think it's the right move and also the right move from OG.
Cool. Yeah, I thought they had a pretty decent first event. Touching on Navi now, as you just kind of brought them up, and I mean, obviously we all know the rookie season Bid had, but focusing more on this whole like swap of leadership is such a cool kind of conversation. What do you think of the work that Blade and Electronic have been doing? Did you feel in the server? Could you tell a difference in Electronic's leadership than when they had Boomich as in the roster?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just have to say that the amount of respect both from Blade. I also talked a little bit with him after the final. The
Yep.
things that they're going through, I think it's just amazing to see that they are still performing. I think it's really rare. So props out to them. They really deserve everything good coming to them.
Yeah.
But for me, I think obviously you can see a difference. They're playing a lot more faster, a lot more explosive than they did with Boomich. I think Boomich before it was a lot about like slow defaults. Don't really care about how many nades you have left. Just taking map control and then playing slow and playing on intuition, and then finishing off in these X and X situations with simply usually popping off, coming in
Yeah.
second or third. But nowadays or now with electronic, I think it's a bit more or a lot more explosive, a lot more fast paced.
A lot more
So yeah,
decisive
yes,
when they
exactly.
sense a weakness. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just mentioned you talked with Blade a little bit after the event. Do you actually, do you have other coaches that like you guys talk to? Like, is there like a little fraternity of coaches that you guys all, obviously not give the goods and like exchange any kind of crazy tactical ideas, but just, are there coaches that you respect that you go to and you're like, man, these are some of the issues I've had to deal with in the past, and this is how we overcame them. Do you have that kind of relationship with some of the other coaches in the scene?
Not really, I would say. I think it's sometimes. I mean, we talk, but it's not like we have like a special group, or if I have
Yeah.
some issues that I share it with some of the coaches and get some inspiration. I wouldn't say that, but yeah, sometimes when you I don't know meet someone at the airport and you're sitting and waiting for a plane, and then you
Yeah.
start talking a little bit, and then you get into some of these uh, how do you say similarities that we
Yeah.
all experience, like in problems or challenges. I think yeah, it can be a thing, but I think it's for me. I don't really talk to too many coaches, and but yeah,
Okay.
I respect a lot of them. I think they're doing an amazing job, and I think we have by far moved away from the players having the last words, and it's a lot about the coaches nowadays setting up the team, which I think is the right call. So yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of
the
good
right.
coaches out there, I think.
Yeah, we do have to start and get a good crop of them. Do you think this Navi change? Obviously, there's always going to be a debate on one side or the other, and it's only been one event. But I mean, just out of the gates, do you feel this Navi team can sustain the level they showed at Blast? Because I mean, they seem to like catch fire at some point during their run in Lisbon, and I don't think I mean nobody was going to stop them that event. It felt like. Do you think this is a team that can just step right back into where they kind of missed out heading into Katowice earlier this year?
I think as long as if I'm not gonna take any credit away from either Electronic or Boomage, but I think as long as they have this trio, almost four players, I think Perfecto is really underrated as well. But you have Simple, Electronic, and Bit popping off.
Yeah.
It seems like sometimes that it doesn't even matter who's calling. They're probably gonna succeed in many ways. Anyway, so but no, I think for me now we have some data on how they are playing. I think it was difficult for me to really analyze, except that I saw that they were playing a bit faster. Um, but yeah, they are definitely a good team and will always be a contender. And as I said
Right.
before, with the things going on in their like, personal life and to see them still perform, I think it's incredible. But yeah, they will always be a contender no matter who's the IGL. I think they just simply have too many good players.
Too much talent not to have like a certain level of success each and every time.
Yeah, exactly.
You've had that problem before. You've been on those teams. That the old Astralis lineups have felt like that way sometimes as well.
Yeah. I think it was more based on team play and making the right decisions rather
Sure.
than it was us really having firepower. Except for yeah, obviously we had, but it was not in the same caliber. I would say that we see here with Navi. By far better individual team or players than what we had, but it was more on the tactical side of things and playing the percentages and yeah, usage of utility and yeah.
Yep, all that good stuff. Last thing before we bring dupreeh in, just talking about FaZe, because you've been in this situation as well, where you found incredible amounts of success as a coach and with your team as well. And then kind of hit some barriers, hit some walls, especially when you guys had Caribbean for the first major that you won, and then after that, it kind of was tough to return to that kind of success. What's it like as a coach? Like, what do you kind of when you see this happening, do you kind of get the sense and know what they're going through? Are you having like flashbacks to where it's like, oh, here's all these events that we've won, we've done a great job, and then like a team just kind of plummets after that? Like, what is the biggest difficulty of kind of staying at the top of the mountain?
I mean, I think for me, the key factor in Astralis to keep the players focused was to accept the fact that you can't just like go through and keep winning tournaments after tournament. You need to choose period during the season where you really want to peak. So by the start of each season, we said, okay, we really want to peak at during Katowice and obviously the major, and for the fall series, it was Blast series in Copenhagen that we really wanted to peak. And then accept pretty much that, okay, we can't just go full throttle whenever we're going to an IEM Dallas, and we were also pretty known for saying, okay, this event is it's really not for us. We are going to skip it so that we can make sure that we peak for this event that we really want to play. So
Yeah.
resting and giving the players some time off during the season is really critical. And also accepting the fact that you are. I mean, for me, it's important that the face guys are not like going into some sort of panic mode now, or is it really
Yeah.
working, or was it just a one time, or that they actually just staying calm and focusing on now? Okay, we won the major, we won the Katowice, and the last goal of this season is most likely going to be Cologne. So if they go in with that mindset, I think they have a pretty good chance.
Well, I mean, this brings up kind of, I guess, a funny thing to just ask you about briefly. They've kind of elected to play in this Roulette Cup that's going on right now, and we just kind of before we were setting up and fixing webcams and all that stuff. Not well, obviously, but we actually were there when FaZe just kind of dropped one of their group stage matches to Big Clan. So I guess my question would be if you're kind of trying to set up your schedule to be peaking at Cologne, but then you hop into an event like a small event like this, or not a small event, but an event like this in the past historically sometimes was like you're going to get a bunch of like tier 2 teams, a bunch of like tier 3 teams, and it's like a nice event to boost your confidence going into Cologne and make sure you're staying in match shape. But here, I mean, there's some heavy hitters. There's Cloud9, there's Ents. Astralis is there. Obviously, we just saw them lose to Big. OG still in the mix as well. Like, there's some real dangerous squads at this event. So, is this? I mean, without kind of like trashing on some of their decisions, I guess, like for you as a coach, are you just like, man, this is one of those events where I would have been like, we don't need it. We don't need to be there. Let's save it all for Cologne.
Yeah, definitely. I really don't see a reason for them to play that tournament. It must have been like a decision made beforehand, I think.
Yeah.
But for me, I would have used the time to take some time off after Blast and then start practicing for Cologne. It seems like they are running out of energy, which is understanding. I understand that, but it's just to play an online tournament now. I mean, the only good thing is that they have good opponents, but it's
Yeah.
also a tournament where you can only pretty much disappoint, which will add to the doubt that the players might have. Like, oh, are we going into a bad period right now? And now they're losing to Big, and hopefully the Robin, who I know is working really well with the players, is gonna tell them that this is just part of them. How do you say? Re-energizing for Cologne, that
Yeah.
it can matter to them that they're playing this tournament. They only have to treat it as a fixing some mistakes or something in their playbook that they have been lacking
Trying
maybe
to, yeah.
after the major, that they can fix for Cologne. Otherwise, I wouldn't have played this tournament if I were their coach.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, let's get dupreeh in here as well, and we'll get both you guys involved in the conversation. And just remember to you guys in Twitch chat and YouTube chat as well. We have a Q&A coming up with Zonic and dupreeh at the end of the show as well. So feel free to just throw questions in chat all throughout the show. And we have some lovely production staff that are going to be grabbing some of the good ones, and we'll ask them for you. What's up, Peter? What's going on, man?
All good. Can you hear me, guys?
Oh, Peter's got mic
Uh-oh.
issues now. I know. You are probably sitting here smiling now, Danny, because you were the one with tech issues before we went live. Now that we,
Is it? Is it better
There
now?
he
Hello,
is.
question mark. It's just because I'm not talking loud enough. No worries.
We got you, brother. Yeah, what's going on, man? How did you like Lisbon? How did you enjoy the event?
Oh, oh, oh! Can you hear me? Hello, hello. No.
Hi, dupreeh.
Test one, two,
This
three.
is
Can you hear me
perfect.
now?
Yeah, we got you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, of course. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. And this one was
Good,
good.
man.
I think
Yeah.
Peter, I think the microphone from your headset, maybe your normal headset.
Isn't it supposed to
You
be?
know, I think you're good. Well, let production sort it out. This is what they get paid for, though. They can boost all the audio levels. Don't even worry about it. How was the stage? First stage in a long time. Was it like being back at home?
No, not really. I mean, I did it was good, but it wasn't like I would have. It sounds weird saying that I wanted to play in front of the Danish crowd, but I mean, the last, not going to play for the Danish Cup was obviously something that we missed,
Yeah.
and something that we really wanted to achieve and wanted to experience again. But for us, it was going back to playing for the stage and playing in front of a crowd was really amazing, and I think a lot of us missed that, and me particularly. So it wasn't the same as playing in front of the home crowd, but it was a really good experience.
Here's kind of, I guess, a question for both of you guys. This felt in some way for me where, like, you guys got beat up a little bit in the finals, but when I look at it, I'm just like, man, this had to have felt like a big weight off their shoulders that they made like a deep run and got to that stage. Is there like a certain level of like moral victory that you guys are taking from this event?
I
Yeah,
mean, Dan, you want to go on this one?
yeah, sure. Of course, I think the guys have been working extremely hard ever since we started this project, and even though I told them in January that they shouldn't have any expectations the first 6 months, it was not expected that we would struggle this much going to playoffs
Yeah.
and I mean it's not. I mean it's been a funny year because I think we're beating every team below us on the ranking and losing to all the teams above us, and obviously we have come close a lot of times. Who could have gone to the playoffs at the major? I think it was a somewhat of a tight game against Heroic. At least we had
Uh-huh.
chances of coming back. But I mean, it's just it was good to finally get the opportunity to play in front of the crowd and to see that we can actually go to playoffs and beating Ens, who's been in a really good shape, and beating G2, who's also improving and in a kind of similar situation as we are.
Yeah, that is kind of a weird one. That you guys have kind of been just like running in parallel, and that had to have felt nice, actually being able to beat them. What are some of the issues that you guys got caught off guard with in these first 6 months? I know a couple times it's been, well, without putting words in your mouth, I think you guys have mentioned a couple times the language barrier was maybe a little bit harder to overcome than you expected. Have there been any real like philosophical differences in how Apex as someone coming out of French Counter Strike has wanted to play versus Danish Counter Strike? Guys who grew up in the Danish scene.
I think that's kind of the thing about having two different philosophies of how to play. I don't think that's been like actually been the main issue for the team, especially not when you look like when we're creating tactics or creating roles or whatever. I think one of the main reasons why we haven't maybe performed the way we wanted to is obviously that the language barrier contributes in a way that you lose a little bit of confidence if you are not 100% sure where you have your teammates or what type of information you're getting. And I think it's been more difficult than we thought in terms of talking English. Because not the fact that you have to talk English, but it's all about in the hectic situation you need to
Yeah,
understand the English so well that it goes into your brain and you translate it into some kind of information you have in game that you can work with. And sometimes that just takes a little bit more time, and you might make the wrong decision. And I think that breaks down the confidence, and then obviously also the fact that we never really managed to create the results that we wanted to, and it took longer than we expected. I wouldn't say we stopped believing, but it definitely took a hit in terms of like, why are we not performing when we have such good players, and why are we not able to go as far as we dreamed about in the beginning, and why are we actually stagnating right now? I think that's been like the main issue for the team, at least from my point of view.
yeah. Danny, you'd agree on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think for me, it's been a mixture of a lot of things. I think we focused a lot in the beginning of creating this bond between the players, making sure I mean, and there's both good and bad sides, I guess, about having an international lineup only consisting of two different nationalities, because you can easily create groups of you have the French side of things and then you have the Danish.
Yeah,
But we put a lot of focus on that it was not Peter and Emil sitting together and sharing room when we were traveling, but everyone was pitching in. Um, we have an assistant coach in Matt who's French as well, so it was really important for me that we kept this structure of we are a team, but we're not Danish and French in that sense, but we all in it together. But I also think, yeah, obviously the communication. As Peter said, in hectic situations.
yeah,
I think we kind of wanted too much in the beginning instead of just setting the bar where we could, like, we tried to overcome too many things in the beginning, and I think we hit a breaking point in at EPL in Düsseldorf in Germany, where we really started resetting and focusing on the fundamentals, focusing on okay, how do we approach in different situations? How much freedom does the flanks have on the team? Can they just peek and I think Peter and Emil were really used to being in a closed system, which the good thing about this is that you know everything your teammates is doing. You know your timing. You know when to flash, when to smoke. You know what you can do, but it's from the outside perspective, it can look kind of easy to read. And then you have I would say, the Carrigan style, which is a lot about kind of calls on the fly, coming up with new stuff. And I think we wanted to do everything from the beginning instead of just focusing on the default and focusing on the small things, making sure that works, and then build on top of that.
Okay.
And I think ever since we kind of reset in that sense, and not trying to copy the Suarez way of playing or the old Vitality way of playing, but actually the new Vitality, trying to work with what we had. I think that has been it's only been going one way ever since that. And I think that for me the team started it was in March and not in January, because we had to figure out so many things from the beginning.
Here's kind of a cool question. Well, it's cool to me. I don't know if it'd be cool to you guys. With this change of Electronic as the in-game leader of Navi, I always get like a little bit nervous when I see like players and like fraggers kind of switch into an in-game leader role, because I feel like they're not always the same if they ever try and go back to not being an in-game leader. And you guys have Magisk on the team who kind of stepped into an in-game leader role on Astralis for a little bit. Have you noticed any change in the way that he thinks about the game or the way he plays the game from when he had that kind of mantle of in-game leadership? It was brief with Astralis, but has there been like a change in the way he wants to approach situations?
I think the first approach that we took to this team is that obviously Apex is the in-game leader, like the main in-game leader. But sometimes it's easier whenever you like if you have the in-game leader dying fast in the round, instead of having him talk, it's better for the players to make their own plans. And I think it was very fast approach that we wanted to have matches as like the second in-game leading. Taking over for Dan if he didn't find a solution in the beginning, or we had some issues finding a solution. I think it's they contribute to each other and help each other, and I think Mads has like the second biggest voice in terms of what to do if things are not going our way. But it's like everyone can chime in, but I think we took that, we gave him that little bit of extra credit because what he did back in Australia was he picked up for Glaive, and he had a lot more responsibility. So he's kind of more experienced in that sense. So I think it was in a natural way. It was the best solution that we could come up with.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. All right, so we're now 6 to 7 months into the lifespan of this new Vitality. Obviously, you guys have had some ups and downs and some steps forwards and steps backwards. But what's the second half of the year? Like, what's your guys' kind of like plan that you've laid out? What are like the big kind of goals? Obviously, we have Cologne coming up. We're gonna have a second major later on in the year. But what are kind of as a team, like what have you guys kind of like laid out and start looking forward to heading into the second half of the year?
I mean, I think it's twofold. I think for me, Peter and Emil, we obviously have a really big goal in trying to reach Copenhagen and to face the Danish fans again. I think it was very special the times that we have had, and we were unfortunate not to go there last year. But yeah, that's one of the two big goals, and then obviously the major is this team was, despite having a rough start, but improving. I think we're on somewhat of the right track. Still a lot to improve, but it's not like I'm clueless in that sense. I can see all the things that we need to improve, but it's just all about being patient, and we really needed that success experience that we had here in Lisbon. So for us to continue on that, hopefully we can reach playoffs once again in Cologne. But being patient and working towards the right goal. Now it's just about, as I said, being patient and working together. Keep believing from the players, and then hopefully do really well at the major.
If you qualify for the Copenhagen in Royal Arena for the fall finals with Blast, and you play Astralis on the stage, who's getting the cheers?
Astralis is 100%. I mean, I think it would
That's
be.
gonna be Astralis.
Yeah, I think it would be weird otherwise. I mean, I really hope that whenever the Astralis guys are not playing, they would be cheering for us because we kind of have a history with Astralis and the Danish fans and everything, and I think it would be like that. But I mean, there's no question that Astralis is going to have the most amount of followers in that arena, and I think that's also how it's supposed to be. Whenever it is a Danish team and everything, so it'd be kind of weird if they were cheering for the international one. But yeah, that's how I see it at least.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd be very, very curious if you guys got like a heroes welcome back onto the stage. That'd be cool. All right, we're gonna get just a few questions from the chat throughout this, and then we'll get you guys out of here. I know dupreeh, you got some grilling, some barbecuing to go do.
Yeah.
This one is for you, Zonic. How is it? I think I've even asked you this question before. So shout out to Shaki on Twitch with a fantastic question. What's it like working with a superstar like ZywOo, and then obviously previously working with another superstar Opera and Device?
It's I mean it's really good as a coach that you have a player who can pretty much win games on his own hand. I mean, if in terms of the similarities, I think they are both really good teammates. One guy who's lives a lot on analyzing his opponents, his direct duel with the opponent's Auber, and looking at new stuff, and then you have the other guy just playing on full intuition, enjoying the game, always have a smile on his face. In ZywOo, obviously. So it's a gift as a coach to have these type of players. But it's also my job to activate them and to help them improve even more. And that has been a challenge, I would say, here in Vitality. Obviously, ZywOo had a rough start this year, but it was also a big transition for him. He was not. He really wanted to communicate well and has improved a lot with his communication. But he was unaware of sometimes where he had his teammates, and I think we have managed to solve that issue. And he's playing really well. But it's also, for me, I've always been a coach who also rely on some of the other players to step up. We need to be able to win games with ZywOo having an off day. And that was the issue with Astralis before, in TSM with Device, maybe not playing his best during the semifinals and finals, and then TSM would lose the semifinal. They were well known for it, and we needed to have players who could step up, because I don't want a team who's just going to rely on one or two players to pop off. We need to have the fundamentals and the playbook in order for us to have a semi-off day and still be able to win games. I know it's tough nowadays because everyone has to frag, and it's a lot about firepower. Even the IGL can't be a bad individual player. He needs to frag as well. So it's a more tough environment nowadays. But yeah, it's a blessing to work with such talented young guys.
dupreeh, I want to just throw that question at you as well, just because you and Device were kind of like one of the, I mean, we like the double D duo from back in the day, and you guys played together for a long time throughout your career. So, what's happened like for you with Device for so long, and then obviously you got just completely different Opera stylistically next to you now?
I mean, a lot of things have changed in that department. I mean, I've been playing with Device for so many years. At that time I just knew exactly what he was going to do. We didn't have to communicate that much. We were just playing off each other, and I think that was one of the reasons why we also clicked so well. I'm not saying I'm not doing that with ZywOo, but it's still different. I've only played with him for 6 months. He's a different kind of Auber as well, as Dennis mentioned. Like, ZywOo wants to do a lot of things on intuition, and he just does whatever he feels like, and that is sometimes good, sometimes it's bad. I mean, because sometimes the intuition is not right, but most of the time I think it's the right thing. And for me, I will always just allow ZywOo to do whatever he wants, because he is so talented and so good that I'm not gonna like start telling him what to do. So I will always, whenever I play alongside him, I will try my best to just try and compliment him and just stay around him and position myself around him, so he's the one that's like the main focus. So I'm more like a supportive role for him, not in terms of utility, but more around like covering him and trying to play ping pong in like counter way. Not really about I think that's the main thing about it. But something that is really special about him, and something that I've credited him for a lot, is that ZywOo has so much potential and has already achieved so much in such a short span of time, and he's so good at the game, but he's still this really humble guy that just really loves to play Counter Strike. And I think that is how you define him. Like, he has so much love for the game, and think it's so much fun, and that I think that's also the main reason why I think he is so good, because I don't think he would have become the player he is now if I don't think like if he's not having fun. If he think it's boring to play or he's playing in a team that's not nice for him, I don't think he would perform the way he does. So I think it's important for him to have fun. And
he's a very pure person when it comes to Counter Strike.
yeah,
He's
he
fun.
is. He's always bringing a smile out. So I think that's important as well to bring up.
Yeah. You guys have obviously made this jump to going international and joining an international roster. The Danish scene historically has been so deep that really not a whole lot of players and teams have had to go international. Do you think this is maybe like, is there a future where you start seeing like, either Astralis as an organization or maybe someone like Glaive who's not finding success in Astralis, maybe are you guys opening the floodgates essentially for the Danish scene to start looking outside of Denmark? In your opinion?
Yeah, I think you have to consider that. I think Denmark has been a front runner in many ways, and in a lot of years when it comes to Counter Strike, it's been the the national sport when it comes to esports in Denmark at least, and a lot of people are following, and we will have a big talent pool in the future because we're seeing these organizations like unions or clubs where kids can go in and
Right.
just like they sign up for football, they sign up for esports and they play Counter Strike. Have teachers from the beginning. So I think for me, I think right now we are. I think it's only the CIS region who really have a massive pool of players who are speaking the same language. I think we
Yeah.
will shift more into seeing more international teams, and I think it's the right approach because nowadays Counter Strike is a lot about, as I said before, firepower, and you really need to have all 5 players being able to pop off at some point or to have good games.
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult to see, yeah, Sweden, Denmark, Germany. It's I think right now it's only maybe 1 or 2 teams that can be assembled and that can really be a top contender. And right now in Denmark, we only have Heroic right now, in my opinion, who also just got a new exciting young player. So it's
Yep.
even though I'm a big Astralis fan, it's a bit of a shame in my opinion.
Yeah. Understandable. Let's get your thoughts on a little bit of the map pool. This question wants to know if you guys are going to bring Ancient into your map pool, although without giving anything away, maybe just get your guys' thoughts and impressions on the map, on how it plays, how it fits. Is it a strong map for the map pool, or is it just kind of there at the moment? Do you guys like playing it? Have you tested out the new changes at all yet? Anything along those lines?
We haven't put too much effort into it yet. I mean, back in the days we were playing as 12, we did play Ancient. And I don't think it's a secret that we haven't played it with Vitality yet because we decided to play Mirage instead. But I briefly looked at the changes, and I think some of the changes. I think one of the main issues about Ancient has been the CT side has been too strong, and obviously having the CT meta at the same time has been like it's been two really good favors thing for the counter for the CT side, and I think that is I think that was a good change because I genuinely feel that the changes that has been made now is more towards the T side. And I think that's going to be really good, especially how you want to approach the A bomb side, which is kind of a new thing. Um, but obviously, the changes going on to the B bomb side, creating a bigger pillar for you to plan around and play around, I think is also going to help the T's have a little bit more of room to either create do a tactic or actually play the outplan positions, which has been a big issue, especially on the B bomb side. So I think the changes in general has been good, and I'm looking forward to see how it's going to play out in future games.
If you guys had to remove one map from the map pool, which one would it be at this point?
Ancient.
Mirage, let's go.
Oh, that was so quick. You were ready. You were ready for that one. Last one, just a general statement. How are you guys moving forward to the events for the rest of the year? Do you think this kind of performance at Lisbon is kind of? I know you guys have already spoken length about how much it helped just kind of give you some positivity for the work you've put in. But do you feel like this was kind of like a springboard performance, where we can see and expect these kinds of levels from you guys more often, or is it still, as you said, just kind of be patient? There's probably going to be a few more licks you have to take before it clicks.
I think it would be a mistake to just go in and have the general idea from the team that okay, now we reach the final. Let's go for at least a final again or a semi-final. I think it's about staying calm, being patient. Let's now we're in playing. Let's qualify for the group stage and let's keep being competitive and beating teams above us on the ranking. I think it's important to stay calm and trust the process, keep working hard, but don't just over exaggerate or just expect us. Okay, now we reach the final, and then be hugely disappointed if we lose to, I don't know, a FaZe or ends next time or whatever, who are playing really good and have a lot more experience than us when it comes to being an international roster. So being patient and keep working hard. I think that's the key for me at least.
dupreeh,
Yeah.
same sentiments as well.
Yeah, I really agree. I have to agree with my coach, otherwise something will be wrong. But
Yes.
no, I think it was really important for everyone in the team, also for the individuals of the team, to have some kind of have a good run, to start believing a little bit in the process also. Because even though we lost against Navi and didn't really make it competitive, I still think it made us believe in the sense that we can actually still play good Counter Strike, and we will be able to compete against the best teams in the world, because we beat some of the really good teams, like in terms of Ents and G2. So I think it was a big. I wouldn't even call it a step. I think it was more like a big leap for the team. So I'm really looking forward to Cologne, but at the same time, I don't want to put up expectations of like, let's go to the semifinals or the grand final or anything. I think I'm going to put the goal at like going to the quarterfinals and then taking one game at a time, because I believe that we do have the capabilities of going to the quarterfinals. So that's going to be like my own personal goal, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, appreciate your guys your time. I appreciate your guys' stress with fixing webcams and microphones and all that good stuff. So yeah, go have a good rest of the day. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the
Shit,
food,
my
dupreeh.
barbecue.
Yeah, hell yeah, baby.
Thank you.
What you barbecuing? Steak, vegetables? Oh, he's already gone.
Oh, you
He
left?
left so quick. Oh, he was gone. All right, thanks, Danny. Have a good one. See ya. Oh, dupreeh was hungry. He had to go. He had to go. We all understand that feel. Gonna cook a nice big steak. All right, close out the show. Let's look ahead. Let's look ahead towards Cologne, because we have a lot of obviously the second half of the year is going to be a lot of fun. But I wanted to give you guys, much like the load in, 3 things to kind of look forward to for Cologne to keep your eye on. First one, right out of the gate, is the easiest of all of them. Obviously, there's been some roster changes, some additions, some stand-ins, some permanent members brought in. Obviously, at those, just not a comprehensive list, but some of the more the bigger ones, I think. Heroic, as Zonic kind of alluded to, they just dropped Refresh. They're going to add Yabi in from the Copenhagen Flames. Obviously, showed a lot of potential. Another young Danish player. So it's going to be fun seeing a new look for Heroic to see if he can bring them better fortunes when they get into the big playoff stages, at Cologne if they get there. Another obviously huge one, a big headline, Liquid adding Yekindar just for IEM Cologne, bringing in Daps permanently as a new coach over at Dren. A lot of rumors have been swirling around Liquid bringing Yekindar in permanently. That's not quite there yet. This is at least just a stand-in situation. We'll see where it goes, but obviously he's probably the highest profile free agent we've got right now, a player that can change the look of any team he joins. That'll be really interesting to see how he's able to fit in, especially with such a short time with Team Liquid adding into their boot camp pre-Cologne. Spirit as well, bringing in Wonderful over Dexter after that miraculous run at the Antwerp Major with PGL. That was wonderful to see, and obviously Dexter did a great performance with OG in Lisbon as well. So going to be interesting seeing Wonderful kind of take up his shoes on the roster. And then 9Z adding an Opper NQZ. And I bring this one up. Obviously, NZ isn't going to be grabbing any headlines as a team that we expect to make deep runs, but they've already taken down Furia with his new addition. They're rivals in South America. So I think that's going to be awesome to kind of see if 9Z, they've also, remember, had some great upsets over Team Liquid, I believe, to knock them out of a certain Blast event, if I remember that correctly. Don't quote me on that one. But obviously, good returns early on with beating Furia, and even Double O Nation if you want to go to a Brazilian team as well. I think on HLTV, they only have like 2 players listed. I'm sure their roster is actually logged permanently for Cologne, but I thought that was fun. So we'll see what Double O Nation comes into the event with. Either way, keep your eye on those additions, how those teams perform with new players in the roster for that competition. Excuse me. Another one, Real Deal Contenders. This is the number 2 thing to look out for. as we've kind of mentioned time and time again over the year, we've been looking for teams to step up and challenge against FaZe. Cloud9 is probably the first one. I think this is going to be a real deal contender. They just won IEM Dallas. They beat FaZe there. So that win, you'd hope, gives them a new kind of confidence on LAN, a new swagger inside the server, a little bit more of a killer instinct. And obviously, just much like Vitality, we had that conversation with taking away the pressure of not really meeting expectations. So now the question for Cloud9 is, are they going to fully become the team that we were all promised out of the online era, where we saw them winning events? They won Katowice online during the online era during COVID. Can they become that team on LAN now with this new bit of confidence behind them? Another contender that we've already proven is the real deal, but maybe a chance that they can actually slip off of that after their performance at Cologne is ENCE. They've had a phenomenal start to the year, but they too have been denied over a long period of time a trophy to actually really capitalize and really, showcase that they can actually win an entire event and not just be a danger for an upset and not just be a really strong team to make deep runs. And the longer they go without a trophy, the more pressure gets applied to that lineup. So at some point, there's going to be a make or break moment for this ENCE roster. I don't know if it's Cologne just yet. I still think they're a real contender, but I think a loss here is really, really going to hurt that team moving forward. And then the next ones are teams that we've already talked at length about through broadcast, and we just had obviously dupreeh and Zonic here. Vitality and G2, I kind of lump them into the same similar kind of category of these teams with so much excitement and so much potential, but it hasn't quite gelled yet. G2's gotten off pretty easy as we've kind of wait for the project to come to fruition. I think Cologne has got to be that time where you start levying some heavy criticism at them if it's another failure. They've gotten close. They seem to keep taking steps there, but not quite over the hump. Vitality as well will have the confidence of a deep run of getting to the final stage in Lisbon actually allow them to move forward. And we just heard from Danny and Peter as well. Patience is the name of the game, trusting in the system, getting a little bit of positive reinforcement on the system and the hard work they've been putting in. But at some point, the moral victories have to come to an end. So we'll see if G2 or Vitality can finally do that in Cologne. And the biggest thing to look out for, in my mind, at ESL One Cologne, is that this event is really going to define FaZe, because they are at a bit of a crossroads right now. Obviously, one of the best starts to the year that we've ever seen in professional Counter-Strike. They won Katowice, they won Pro League, they won the Major, they've won pretty much everything you could, but they've been on a downward trajectory since lifting the trophy in Antwerp. They lost in Dallas, upset in Lisbon, now here at the Rubet Cup that they're playing in online at the moment. They just took a loss to Big. We'll see where they end up there. But just make no mistake, because we've been searching for contenders for FaZe this entire time, but with Navi looking the way they did winning in Lisbon, we might not have to look for a contender anymore for FaZe. We might have to change the focus. If FaZe cannot perform at Cologne, all of a sudden, and this is self-admitted by Kerrigan and Twist as well, the rest of the season becomes pretty much a disappointment. If they go into Cologne and they've dropped and had disappointing results 4 events in a row, they lose a lot of that magic. And I think you start really being concerned about what kind of a FaZe we're going to get for the second half of the year. It would be devastating for FaZe to lose this. But on the other hand, if they win, if they take a victory in the Lanxess Arena, they'll actually go down to the history book, because no team has ever accomplished winning Katowice, winning Cologne, and winning a major all in the same year. They could be the first one to do it, as well as another notch on the Grand Slam belt, which would be absolutely wonderful for FaZe. But the only other team who ever had an actual chance at winning, at accomplishing that feat of Katowice, Cologne, and a major in the same year was Astralis back in 2017, where they skipped Cologne. They won Katowice, they won a major that year, and they skipped Cologne to prepare later on for the PGL Krakow major. So they actually just took themselves out of the running for that kind of record in the history book. But FaZe, they've got a chance for history or a devastating loss, and then who knows what happens from there, because I think that would be a sign of perhaps a deeper issue and maybe an over accomplishment, I guess you call it, for the first half of the year. Incredible as it was, maybe this is truly the real level that FaZe is at. Those are 3 things to look at for Cologne, and obviously 3 answers we're going to have in just a few weeks' time. I don't know. I'm just excited. Cologne's like Christmas for the summer. So is Lisbon. Lisbon was absolutely phenomenal. We enjoyed seeing everyone there, enjoyed returning to Lisbon after 4 years as well. But regardless, that's going to be it for the loadout. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for tuning in and getting a little bit of a recap on how everything went back at Lisbon. If you didn't catch it, make sure to check out some of the matches on VODs. And then, after the player break, we're going to get started with another Blast season, this time in the fall, that will end and come to fruition at the Royal Arena in Copenhagen. So we'll see you at the start of the next season for Blast. Thanks.